Wow.
Oh, there I was, just sticking around. But I was sticking around while we were live. I didn't know that. Hi there. Welcome.
La, 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 la.
It's Canada Day. And the debate rages. Should we or should we not be celebrating Canada Day today?
Yes, we should. This is still a great country.
Or should we not be celebrating Canada today? We got that and a bunch more, including Bill Cosby and some other shit. Welcome to the show. My name is Dean. As always, joined by my friends. One guy from Edmonton. His name's Lachlan Cross from 95.7 Cruise FM in Edmonton. Morning show host there. Nice guy. Yeah, Lachlan Cross on Twitter. My dear friend, James DiFiore. We call him the DiFiore. He's down there as well. He's underneath me right now where he prefers to be. I like that about you. And he's also from blackballmedia.ca. So go check him out. And you can also download his podcast. It's called Blackballed the Podcast. And lawyer extraordinaire, please welcome Rob Kaviklian. He's here today as well. Rob Kaviklian, everybody. It looks like he's a lawyer at a call center, but don't mind that. He's got his diploma on the wall behind him.
He moonlights at OnStar. It's a little known fact.
I sell insurance.
You're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Is the car still running?
Did you try rebooting the engine? Just plug it out, plug it in.
It's like he's Canada's version of Saul Goodman.
Yes. Hey, he had a good track record. He was
Usually we wait about 20, 30 minutes before we wildly insult the guests, but today, something special. We're going to insult you right out of the gate. First off, can I table this? Can I table this before we get going? Why are we doing this? It's Canada Day. It's a holiday. Why?
Well, because people need something. There's fucking hundreds of people watching right now, so it's people need something to do, need something to watch. We got things to talk about. Residential schools. Should we celebrate? Should we not? My neighbors, Sri Lankan neighbors, lovely people. I just poked my head out my door, my back door, because I'm listening to music, crazy music going. I'm like, why are people partying in the middle of the day? And then I realized it was Canada Day, and my Sri Lankan neighbors are having a rager in their backyard.
You had no idea it was Canada Day.
No, I fucking told.
I forgot. I forgot until about 20 minutes ago.
Okay, so there's the reason.
Yeah. Wow, but I'm watching these guys celebrate, and they've come to the country to have a better life, and they're celebrating Canada. And it dawned on me, these people are all raging. Don't celebrate Canada Day. Do celebrate Canada. This is a good country, and there are a lot of people that came here from different places that are celebrating today, and a lot of like me. As Canadian as it gets, even though I am an immigrant to this country, I'm not celebrating Canada Day. My Sri Lankan neighbors love it here so much. They're having a rager in their backyard thanking freedom of air just because they're here, just because they love it, just because they're not, duking it out in another country. So I think it's a debate worth having, right? Obviously, the residential school stuff, 182 more kids yesterday just outside of Cranbrook, and Truth and Reconciliation. And as bad as it is, there's the question, can you do both? Can you have a day of remembrance? Can we be observant individuals and say, hey, listen, this is a fucked up day. Sure, we love this country, but can we keep this top of mind at the same time, still love this country? Locke, over to you. Let's start with you first. Lachlan Cross, ladies and gentlemen.
I have an analogy, okay?
Yes.
Right? Would you all agree that I'm a pretty decent human being?
No.
I would.
Hey, we're all in agreement. We all agree. Not that decent.
I was hoping there would be a positive narrative to my...
I said yes. I think you're a wonderful human being.
We'll ignore James and Rob, and I will go with the pretext that I am a decent human being. Yeah. If you look underneath of my left armpit, there's a wart there that I haven't been able to remove because of COVID. And I just think Canada's kind of like my armpit, right? We got warts. It's still a pretty decent armpit on a pretty good guy, right? But there's a fucking wart there, and I'm going to deal with the wart when they let me go back to the hospital.
But
hey, everybody, Lachlan Cross wants everyone to know he's dealing with a nasty wart, and he couldn't figure out how to get it in the conversation.
I thought losing my first jury trial was my career low, but I think I just that's a new one.
Stick around, Rob.
I'm being serious, and I think what Locke's doing is kind of just offering up a lighthearted explanation, and I don't think you're wrong. There are a lot of great things about this country. We have a ton of warts, but I mean these are fucking big warts.
Yes, and we got to deal with it. We definitely need to deal with the warts right now, and everyone right now I think is in a state of shock with what they're learning, because most of us I think would fall under the category of I had no idea that was happening. When we heard about residential schools through the years, you probably thought, you know what? I'm guessing some bad shit possibly happened here and there, but this is when they use the word genocide. I don't think that's an exaggeration based on what we're learning right now, right? So
no, it's not. It's not an exaggeration.
The unfortunate part is you've got a rather sympathetic community and a sympathetic country, regardless of where you come from originally, where your heritage is. And we're all looking at this with like, holy shit, how could this happen? How could we let this happen? Regardless if it was 20 years ago, 40 years ago, or 60 years ago. Reconciliation is a good word, because I think we're all trying to reconcile the losses and trying to figure out, what this whole thing. Yeah, it's not easy.
I think you're right about all that. I think also we've touched on this about how our educational system didn't teach us any of this stuff. I was at the prison library yesterday, and and a book was returned in. It was about the residential schools. It was published in like 1998. And I read through it, and I just sort of skimmed the different chapters, and I wanted to go to one that may have made mention of something really dark. And they have a whole chapter of like, all the horrible things that were done at that residential school. So this is like 25 years ago, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And they mentioned stuff like, 75% of the kids at this one Saskatchewan residential school died while they were there. So we kind of knew in a sense, right? And now that we're finding the physical evidence, I think we're all sort of taking pause and trying to come up with what we think about it. The Canada Day question about celebrating, I think the celebration or not to celebrate is as diverse as our country is. Obviously, Indigenous people are probably not celebrating today. Obviously, conservatives, motivated by the frantic demands of the woke left, are just doubling down on their love for Canada Day today. The far left is being like, we shouldn't celebrate Canada. We're a colonialist, murderous country. And it's like the reasonable people are like, look, we have a bad past. We need to deal with that through reparations and all that. But the reason why the Sri Lankan immigrants that live next to Dean are celebrating is because they come from an actual shithole. And when they get here, they're thankful to be here because our society is not fucking war torn. I don't mean the culture. I don't mean the land itself. I mean the fact that there's wars going on where they come from, and they come here and they're thankful to be here because they have the contrast and they're able to see what a really shitty country is like and what one that isn't shitty in the present day is like. So, I think it's worth noting that there's a lot of differing opinions on whether we should celebrate.
Well, yeah, your opinion on Canada Day falls with your experience with Canada, right? And you said the Indigenous people aren't celebrating Canada Day. They never have. They fucking never have.
Yeah.
Well,
right?
unless you count a small fire as a celebration,
a celebratory fire. So great.
I interned at the Assembly First Nations up in Ottawa when I was in law school up there, and they don't celebrate. They don't celebrate Canada Day. What did one of the guys call it? They call it Foreigners Day. Which I thought was great. But
that's funny.
When I was interning at the Assembly of First Nations in Ottawa, I was working on the tail end of the litigation around the residential school settlement agreement. So I knew the numbers. I didn't think that we'd be finding hundreds of unmarked graves on these residential schools, but I knew many children died while they were at these residential schools, and it's actually, I've seen the evidence. Like it's still under seal, but it's really heartbreaking stuff. Like just what went on with these kids.
So let me ask you a question, Rob. Rob Kavickley, a lawyer, joins us at Archive Law, is where you can find him on Twitter. We're just talking a little bit about Bill Cosby in a minute, but dealing with the residential schools and do you or don't you celebrate Canada Day today? And as seeing these files, I mean, the number on hand is 4,100, right? That's what we were told. We were told as foreigners in this country, 4,100 Indigenous children were killed during or died, not killed. They admitted to them dying, not being killed. 4,100 kids. Right. I know. I mean, we're all finding out. And we've never paid attention like this before. So it's important to get these numbers out.
Where does the 100,000
We're over 1,000.
Well, hold it. And that's the thing.
Over 1,000.
Yeah. But there's the official number the government admits to and the Catholic Church admits to. Am I not mistaken? As part of that $25 million settlement several years ago, the official number was only 4,100. And in 3 schools in 3 weeks, we found an additional 1,000 with 157 more to go. So how many children are buried underneath these Catholic churches?
Yeah, where does that 100,000 number come from, Rob? Was there any indication, or can you even talk about that? Was there a hard number?
I can't get into the evidence again because this was part of my job. I was at the AFN when I was there was to work on. So the IRSSA had been signed. The Indian Residential School Settlement Agreement had been signed. It established a multi-billion-dollar fund for survivors of residential schools. It's the largest class action settlement in Canadian history. And believe it or not, it was a raw deal. I remember asking Stuart Wetkeed, who was the general counsel at the Assembly of First Nations, why, because I read the agreement. And I said, why the hell did you sign this? And he goes, because it was all we were going to get. But this is the thing is, thousands just never returned. They just didn't come back. They took these kids off reserve, and then that's it. They were never seen again.
Yeah, it's not thousands, Rob. It's tens of thousands. I mean, if you got 157 more sites to search, and you found 1,200 at 3, let's do the math. I mean, you're looking at 70,000 children minimum. Yeah. Minimum. That's between 40 and 70,000 minimum. Yeah, exactly. So, my
question is, and I don't know if there's an answer for this, but because I've been hearing a lot about how the Catholic Church designated Indigenous people as savage. So they basically said, you're not human. But how, if somebody says that out loud or somebody writes it into a book and it's part of your religion, even if you're a really, really strong believer, what kind of animal, what kind of human being, regardless of who you pray or believe in, whatever God you believe in, how can you actually believe that? That's the thing that I can't get over right now, because they just
common Locke. I think it was so common back in the 1850s that it was not just common, it was preferred. It was acceptable in Canada to say that people
do that,
who weren't,
even if they're different. I don't get it. I can't wrap my head around how you can I can get away with this. I mean, yeah.
That's funny. So all these chapters that we have like that in history about what you're talking about slavery and things like that, it's important to keep in mind, because I remember thinking, why were we just all psychopaths and sociopaths at the time? How could we how could we stomach this? But then you have to remember, at those same time, there were white people who were fighting for emancipation, who understand that on the face of it, it was bad. We always hear history from the people that do these deeds to people like the Indigenous peoples. And so it's always going to be clouded over. But I think the truth of the matter is that we're not just predestined to be sociopaths. And it's not just today's standards versus yesterday's. There's always been good people, but they just never have power, right?
So James has a friend who's Indigenous. Native, and I don't know what percentage, but her father, so she's in her late 30s. James is the co-host on the show. So they were over at her place having some drinks the other day, And she said this whole thing's been really, really hard for our family because it's like it's uncovering all these wounds that we knew that and all these things that my dad dealt with, but no one ever talked about it, right? So even in the community, they weren't talking about it. They were just like, Dad, he needs to deal with some stuff, and this is what he went through some shit. And he told them a couple of stories. So when they got in trouble, when he would be misbehaving in school, they would put him in a box. Like literally put him in a box in the back of the classroom and lock the fucking door for like 6-7 hours.
Jesus
Can you
Christ.
wrap your fucking head around that?
That's what the American soldiers did to Iraqis as one of the charges as evidence of torture, by the way.
Just wrap your head around doing that to anybody. Doesn't even matter what the fucking reason is. A kid. Like, I can't even fucking fathom that. I wouldn't do that to an animal. It doesn't make any sense to me how we can separate these people from being human. It's baffling to me.
That's because besides your disgusting armpit wart, you're a really good person. Right?
And how weird is it that it's weird to us? Like, they're part of this, and Rob, you would know more about this, but I mean, all three of us, we've talked about this in the podcast, and we like Canada, we enjoy Canada, but I am embarrassed by this history.
Oh God!
Like, I am embarrassed by it. I've had friends from the States send me tweets like, "What the fuck happened in the 1800s in Canada?" I'm like, "We're just trying to figure it out, dude." Like, but the incredible part is, Rob, and tell me why this hasn't happened. Is that we've heard about it. 1.7 million Indigenous people in this country have been telling us about it, which is 90% less than we started with in this country because they wiped out 90% of them with fucking smallpox blankets back in the 1800s, 1700s. I mean, how is this? How are we guilty of just not paying attention because we didn't care? Like,
James found a book in the library with all these fucking stories
about this. The Indigenous people in this country have been yelling, screaming, begging for us to pay attention to this for hundreds of years. And I'm part of it because I internalize everything. I'm almost embarrassed that at the age of 48, I choose to become an ally.
That's part of our reconciliation. That's part of what we're going through right now.
I had no idea until I worked at the Assembly of First Nations just how bad it was. Like James said before, we're not taught this in schools growing up. We need to be, but I had no idea, and I saw the evidence. I wish I could talk about it because it's stuff that would give, M. Night Shyamalan nightmares. Like it's beyond your run of the mill physical, emotional, mental, and sexual abuse. Like what these kids went through was,
it's a Holocaust.
There's no other word for it. It's a Holocaust. It's genocide. It's a deliberate attempt to wipe out an entire culture and race. Or I wouldn't throw Indigenous peoples in Canada into a single group because there are thousands of different groups within that sort of umbrella. But yeah, no, it was awful stuff. And like these kids, and just the process of Mounties and some hack bureaucrat would show up on reserve and say, "We're taking your kid." Like, imagine that.
Yeah. Rob, I wanted to ask you if, and I know you can't talk about specifics, but was there anything in that sealed agreement that said, if in the future, additional discoveries that we do not technically cover in this agreement, if they're discovered, will they matter? Or does that agreement say, you know what, this is it. Even if we find new shit, this is it.
Here's the thing: the Harper government imposed the IRSSA onto First Nations groups, and and even then they didn't. Part of the litigation that I was working on was the back end of it, where if there was this X amount in a fund, and the leftovers from people who didn't claim, because you had to come forward and you basically have to prove that you went to residential school and that you suffered, and so whatever money was left over was to be transferred to what was known as the National Indian Brotherhood Trust Fund.
Just a question. Back that up. You had to prove to a court of law that you suffered as well as went to the school. So going to the school wasn't enough. That you had to prove your level of suffering. Is that correct?
monetary awards were given out based on the level of it was. I'm sorry, like it was fucked, like the whole process, and so yeah, like there was leftover money that hadn't been claimed, and then they were supposed to transfer that to what's known as the National Indian Brotherhood Trust Fund. Okay, and that's meant to be used for education for Indigenous groups and First Nations people and Métis and Innu. The thing about it is the Harper government just didn't want to transfer the remainder of the money, so yeah, we had to sue them. Like they was every step of the way. They imposed the agreement, and every step of the way, they got in a boot fight about everything. They had to go back to court, back to court, back to court. Well, because they didn't want to give them the money.
To be fair, Kathy, who texted us, and I believe Kathy is a Catholic, she texted us earlier in the week, is that this is all overblown.
Oh.
I had someone say the same
thing.
And
that the residential schools did a lot of good for the community.
Oh, fuck you, Kathy. I watched a lot of that today, too. I watched a lot of that. Yeah, Kathy can go fuck herself. I watched a lot of people do this, too. One of my least favorite phrases on Twitter over the past few days has been, stop burning places of worship. Stop burning places of worship. Every person that has tweeted that is a privileged dick that doesn't have the experience of having a cult stand on the bones of their fucking relatives. Case in point, this is a Toronto Sun reporter. He tweeted this today. Just to be a dick. Happy Canada Day. Thank you to Sir John A. Macdonald for forging together this great nation of ours. Just to be an asshole. Yeah,
he's a Toronto Joey Sun. Don't call him a reporter. He works for the Toronto Sun. He's not.
Sorry, buddy. Joey Vendetta, who I know, says, "Happy Canada Day. If it's so bad, move somewhere else. Many others like it. Take your spot." I know him. I was fucking shocked by it. And a buddy of mine, like a mutual friend of mine and his, sent that to him, and he's like, "Do you still talk to this guy?" And I said, "No." No, because there's a difference here, and I'm trying to boil it down. Coming back to Canada Day, do you celebrate or not? I love this country, proud of the people that are celebrating. I'm choosing not to do firecrackers tonight because I've never fucking done them in my life, right? But do I love the country? Yeah, I love living here. Am I proud of it? Absolutely not right now. Has it given me wonderful things? For sure it has, as it has many people, but it's also taken from others. Right? It's also taken from others, their families, their ancestors, their children, their culture, their language.
There's a lot of really good people, right? Like
there's a lot of great people. But my point, and just to wrap all this stuff up, is that you can be proud of this country, but there has to be an answer for this stuff. And you can absolutely be embarrassed by how this country not only has handled Indigenous people, but how they continue to handle it. Justin Trudeau's government is still, if I'm not mistaken, Rob, fighting with survivors of residential schools to not pay them something to the tune of $4 million out of the $25 million settlement that they helped get out of the Catholic Church. I mean, he won't talk about that when he's standing there telling everybody we need reconciliation, we need truth. Justin Trudeau also isn't talking about his fucking dad, who in 1969 authored something called the White Paper, which we've talked about, and he wanted to remove the rights of every Indigenous citizen. And we've got fucking schools named after that cock. Like, you can't believe politicians in regard to how you feel about where you're at on this matter. You have to listen to Indigenous people, and you have to be an ally, and that is your only job. It's not to fucking rub salt in the wound like Anthony Fury from the Toronto Star, who went out of his way to shit on Indigenous people as we are uncovering their ancestors from the ground after 200 years of rape and murder, to go out of his way to say thank you to the guy who was responsible for it all. That's not us.
That's really
Rob.
Anthony Fury isn't us.
Rob, I just have one last question for you because I think it's important. When we talk about the saying I'm sorry, like let's use the Catholic Church thing as an example. Like everyone's talking about this apology, and I still think like, what the fuck is an apology going to do? Like I don't really see that. But is there, like, behind the scenes, will that unleash a domino effect of maybe legal hassles for the government or for the church if they apologize? Are they therefore admitting something that could lead to a lawsuit?
Yeah.
And is that really the reason why they're not wanting to do it?
Money.
It's certainly part of it. Here's the thing: the Catholic Church is an incredibly wealthy institution. You have to understand that. And yes, by apologizing, you're admitting liability. So that's certainly a part of it. I was raised a Catholic. Okay, I attended St. Mike's in Toronto. Which is run by an order of priests. The Catholic Church, a lot of the moral values, the good and the bad, have been instilled in me by some of that Judeo-Christian tradition, right? But at the end of the day, I wasn't aware until I worked at the Assembly of First Nations, and there are many survivors of residential schools, and I say survivors deliberately because they're survivors, that worked at the AFN, and they weren't surprised that I didn't know. Like they were like, yeah, I know, and nobody talks about this. Like, I feel like I was their token white guy. Like, they're like, we got one. But
Hey, can I ask you a question? Let's say, and I don't want to give anybody any ideas, but where's the school, Rob, that you went to?
It's in Toronto, St. Mike's Catholic School. Some kid just got busted for sexual assault there last week, I believe.
Okay. So let's just say you were in Toronto, not too far away from the school, and you're, on a walk reminiscing, and you look over the corner, out of the corner of your eye, you see it licked in flames. Would you be worried about that or concerned about that?
Would you grab a bucket or a hose?
I'm a proud alumni of St. Mike's, and again, that school did a lot of good things for me. But again, like the Catholic Church, there needs to be a similar reckoning in Canada to this at the same level in post-war Germany that they had with sort of what went on during the Second World War, the lead up. There needs to be a similar level of reckoning. We need to as a country, as a nation, and the diversity is our strength. I believe that, give us, never mind the US, give us your tired, your hungry, your poor, like, please, that's Canada. Anyone can come here and help make this country a better place, but we as a nation need to have a similar reckoning that Germany did post World War II in respect to the Holocaust and the lead up to it, because this is an out and out genocide. I mean, I'm going to piss off all of Thornhill right now by saying that, but that's just a fact. Like, we need to have that level of reckoning, because this was
I had lunch with a rabbi friend of mine last week, and he was like, dude, there's nothing different. I mean, there's no difference between, other than the mass, but the intention was the same, right? So I don't think you're pissing anybody off. I think you're telling the truth. From one tragedy to another, how the fuck did Bill Cosby get out of jail yesterday, Rob? Seriously.
This is not going to be the heaviest episode. Everyone's getting this podcast is brought to you by Prozac.
I'm here, Rob.
Yeah.
You know what we're going to do? We've got a few hundred people listening. We're going to send them all benzos after this for the next one.
Yeah.
Just want to say for the record that for me, this podcast is brought to you by Adderall. But go ahead, Rob.
No, because yesterday, shocked, right? Like, I'm shocked. I'm sitting on my couch and I'm doing work, and it's like, Bill Cosby is free from prison. I'm looking at I'm pretty sure it's like 8 years early, which it was like 7 years early. I understand what happened. I wanted you to come on the show so you can explain it from a legal standpoint, because you're a fucking lawyer and a really good one. So how did he get out of jail 3 years into a 7-year sentence? Rob, go.
So here's the thing. All right. So in 2004 is when he drugged and sexually assaulted Andrea Constant. And here's the point. Bill Cosby did this to 53 other women. Okay.
Like, proven?
Is that on record? Is that a legal thing?
54 women. That's the number after 53, Locke. Just in case you were wondering, that's fucking how many he.
One before 55.
No. All I'm saying is, I know that a lot of what happened so long ago, and based on the laws, that they couldn't actually prosecute him. But do they have on his record, like, if you look up
I think he means during the legal proceedings. Did he admit to 53, or was there evidence for 53?
That's the number of women. That's the number of women. And I don't know the state of Pennsylvania criminal law because it goes state by state down there. But there are certain overarching principles that are very much relevant to Canada. There's statute of limitations down there, but in Canada, there's no limitations period for sexual crimes. I defended a sexual assault case from the late 1970s recently. Okay. So there's no limitations period. Okay. So that's why there's a whole lot of guys out there who should be waiting for the other shoe to drop. So yeah. All right. In 2004, he drugs and sexually assaults Andrea Constant. He did that. Yeah. Okay. That happened. It's not maybe it didn't happen. No. It happened. Sure as you're born. And then 2005, she brings a complaint. She actually, because she's Canadian, she went to the Oshawa police, who then referred the matter to the Philadelphia police, who then referred it to the Montgomery County police, which is where that.
We just lost him. Did we just lose him like mid-explanation of the Cosmo thing?
I think Verizon just fired his ass. I think that's what happened.
That was interesting. It was getting really interesting because he was digging into it.
People are just baffled by this whole Bill Cosby
and they should be. They should be, because I'm sitting on my couch yesterday, and there are certain people that that got it, that you're like, good, they got it. They're going to be gone for a long time. He's back. Hang on a second. It did shock me. Rob, go ahead. 2005, you ended with Andrea Constant, Oshawa, Philadelphia. Go ahead.
Oshawa, please.
The district attorney in 2005 of Montgomery County then decides that. So he says we're not pursuing criminal charges because
it was a civil matter.
Yeah, well, no, he encouraged Andrea Constant to pursue a civil matter because that was one of the only ways, because he believed her. He didn't have the evidence. And you got to remember, this is pre-Me Too. They weren't going after this stuff as thoroughly as they are now. So he says, this is the best way to do it. What's more, he then knows that in the United States, you have what's called Fifth Amendment protection, which is your right against self-incrimination. We have a similar principle in Canada called Section 11C of the Charter, meaning if you're compelled.
What's that section again? What's that called? What's that section again?
I may need that in the future.
Yeah, just for James.
Section 11C of the Charter.
Okay, good.
It's your rights against self-incrimination. So if you're compelled to testify in a proceeding, you cannot be. You can't be compelled to testify. Like, let's say I serve a subpoena on you, Dean. You have to come to court. You have to tell the truth, right? So, can you guys still hear me?
Yeah. Keep going.
Okay, perfect. So, and if you're compelled to testify, you have to tell the truth, right? So, but let's say you come and say, in telling the truth, you go, that kilo of cocaine is mine. You then can't be hit with criminal charges after that.
Yeah. Well, especially about a kilo of cocaine. I mean, thanks. It couldn't have been just a normal crime like, B&E. You had to give me with a kilo of cocaine, Rob.
Well, you're a celebrity. I mean, that's what you got.
So is the understanding then that they uncovered this is what I'm understanding, that Bill Cosby's lawyers at $1,000 an hour or $1,500 an hour, whatever they were charged, basically were able to find a way to use the original agreement that Bill Cosby signed, saying he agreed to be deposed in the civil matter with Andrea Constant in return for not facing any charges. And
they told him you're not going to face criminal charges. So he didn't invoke his Fifth Amendment protections during it. Like you've heard this, I plead the Fifth. Right?
Yeah.
So he didn't invoke that. In fact, he incriminated the hell out of himself. I've seen you can go on YouTube and watch the depositions.
And had he had the opportunity to use the Fifth Amendment or employ the Fifth Amendment, he would have in that circumstances, and he wasn't afforded the right. Therefore, that is not legal. And he made a deal, and that deal stands to this day. And the new DA ignored it when they brought charges, which lock statute of limitations. Back to your question. It was 12 days before the statute of limitations were running out on that crime. 12 days. And that's when they filed charges. So, listen, he's guilty as fuck. But it looks and sounds like, Rob, he had his rights punked. Like, I mean, that's, according to the letter of the law. And I say that like, scared actually for the words to come out of my mouth. But it looks like they abused his rights along the way, and that's how he finds himself free, right?
Here's the thing is that there was no deal, but the Montgomery County District Attorney the whole time is giving press conferences saying we're not pursuing criminal charges. And so he relied on that, made these incriminating statements when he otherwise would have had his Fifth Amendment.
Holy shit. He got off on a loophole.
Then they turned, no, this isn't a loophole. They did violate his rights.
It's as crazy as it sounds, Locke. They fucked him. Like, is that not kind of like they all the legal precedent and how things were supposed to roll out according to those kinds of charges? And I'm shocked it took 3 years to figure that out. He should still be in jail for what he did, but according to the law in Pennsylvania, he got fucked.
That's how long it takes to get to appeal, though, right?
Wow.
So this is the thing is that, Bill Cosby did it, but I mean, here's the point. The overarching principle is like the United States, like Canada, the United States is a constitutional democracy and people have legal rights. And can I ask you a question? Then did it just seems, even though he did do it, this was more about the movement than it was about the law, according to how they laid it out. You got to remember the district attorney, the office of the district attorney in each state in the United States, these county district attorneys, they're elected, right? So so they all take the hard stand. They're all looking for the news, like the Rudy Giuliani routine, of giving press conferences, and because it's an elected position, right? Like Kamala Harris is a horrible human being. Like what she did as the Attorney General of California. Oh my God! Like she took away the right to test DNA evidence that would have otherwise exonerated countless people who are still in the penitentiary in the California systems. Like she did that. She sucks. Kamala Harris is awful. But again, it's because these are elected positions, so they're always looking for the big fish, as it were. And then this person, new DA, comes in and says, "No, I'm going to get this guy because in part because of their own vanity, right?" Like
a la Mike Bullard. A la Bullard, right? I mean, there are examples where sometimes that part of the equation, although, centered in the proper intentions and 100% probably accurate, there are times when, steps are missed and, the principle is more important than justice, right? Because justice comes from both sides. Whether someone did something illegal or not, that has to be borne out properly in a court of law, right? It really, really does. And in this case, it wasn't. It sounds like so.
That's fucking bizarre. It was a process. It was an abusive process, is what it was. Yeah, right. Like,
Rob,
these are fundamental rights that go back to the Magna Carta. And these have been hard won because without things like this, the state can just throw a human being in a cage. So and I remember I worked on a really bad case. The disclosure was horrific. And I remember going into my boss's office. This is when I was a junior with Ted Royal, and I remember sort of pacing up and down, being like, "This guy's an animal. What are we doing?" And he goes, "Rob, first of all, it's not about you. Secondly, if we can make sure that the rights of the worst of us are protected, then all of us are better off."
That's a good way of looking at it, although hard to chew on when it's somebody like Bill Cosby, and we all know what he did. Does he have a case for a wrongful conviction?
I dare him.
Okay. But he is a
Could you imagine the balls on him if he did that, though? Oh, dude, you know what? Right after he came home, they pulled him out of the car. He has a press conference, doesn't say anything, but his people then let it out that he plans on going on tour next. Man, would that be tour? That he won't get through a fucking show without being hit with something. So, I mean, he's still, for as terrible as this is for the rights of women who've been sexually abused by men, and as awful as the optics are, and they are fucking awful, he is effectively dead to society, right?
I don't
And
know.
he's-
This guy,
no,
man,
not.
he is
No.
You don't
fucking
think so?
so narcissistic. He'll go on tour.
It's
I
not
think
just
he
him.
will.
It's not just him. If you I sometimes venture into Black Twitter, and there is a whole contingent of people who see this because they're not really reading the all the articles like we all sometimes do, who are reading this as almost like an exoneration, who are saying like America's dad is back. I'm not kidding.
Wow.
There's a lot of people. I argued. Remember Theo Huxtable? I forget his actor name. I argued with that guy for like a week in our DMs, and I'm like, listen, Theo, you know, your television dad is like
Malcolm
is like,
Jamal Warner.
That's correct. I'm like,
Yeah.
I still called him Theo, and he didn't like that, but I still did.
Oh,
I'm like,
it's because you're a dick.
no, it's because I grew up watching him as Theo. I don't know.
No, it's because
Anyways,
you don't
well,
miss
hold
an
on. I told him-
opportunity to shit on somebody, and I kind of like it. Don't worry,
Well,
it's
I
awesome.
shat on him. The reason why I shat on him that moment, because you're right, I probably would have been more respectful. But he was like, yeah. He's, you know, I'm going to reserve my judgment because you know Bill is like a father to me, and I'm like, yeah, I'm really sorry that your father's probably one of the most prolific rapists in U.S. history.
No
But
kidding.
Jesus Christ. Like,
Yeah.
Well, it's
tough
a
for
good
people to
thing
swallow.
Bill didn't waste any time in prison taking those courses about,
right?
you know,
And you know
being a
what? I
sexual
fucking
predator.
just a douchebag and a terrible human being. But like a few months ago, he was offered parole. If he apologized, he's like, "Go fuck yourself." And then,
Well, and
because he's like,
and he was supposed to take those courses too. That was the other thing.
And
He hasn't been
he said, take courses. He's like, nah, I didn't take any.
He's
Screw you.
doing stand up in the fucking prison. Like at lunchtime, he sits up and fucking and starts telling jokes and shit. I've heard.
Rob,
Like,
Rob,
crazy.
that kind
insane.
of that kind of behavior where you like
Insane.
you say you're going to go on tour and you don't take these courses that they're offering you in jail. Is that maybe because his legal team was like, look, we're going to get off eventually. They're just like dragging this out as long as they can, but they know that you're eventually going to be exonerated in the sense that it's going to be overturned. So don't go to these things and don't say these things because you don't have to. And if you do, it might impact you negatively when you get out. Is that like a possibility?
It's certainly possible that he would that his legal team would say that. I'm not privy to those discussions, obviously, but you know, not submitting to treatment, not the statement about going like. And here's the thing: Bill Cosby was convicted by a jury of his peers. Okay, like so, even though.
He's guilty of what he did. He just, and it was so fucked with how they did it. Yeah.
He had his day in court and they were like, you did it. Sorry, bud. Like, and he got an appropriate, I said it in the article, he had an appropriate sentence. And I mean, the right to trial by jury is one of the oldest common law maxims. Okay. And he had that day in court. Okay. This is fundamental stuff. This is a fundamental pillar of a constitutional democracy. That the right to a trial by a jury of your peers, the right to face your accuser. Okay.
Yeah.
And that all happened for him, and he was found guilty. So that would be interesting. That is it actionable? You know, notwithstanding the fact that he was found guilty, could he bring a lawsuit? Right. I don't see it going anywhere. And
Rob, Wade wants to know: does he remain on the sexual offenders list, or is that toast too? Like, does he have to go door knocking? Which, by the way, is the number one reason I'm not a sexual offender. That, and I don't have any proclivities. I don't want to have to go door to door in a new neighborhood and go, "Hey, everybody, hi, I'm a sexual offender. I just moved in next door."
But it's not what you think. I masturbated in church. It's fine.
Could you imagine having to do that? Like you can actually go online and you can look for sexual offenders in your area. Did you know that? You can just Google sexual offenders in my area, and they're actually there, and you can actually see where the sexual offenders live. But that has to be the best punishment for any pervert who's ever gotten out of jail is, no, bud, you have to go and knock on all of your neighbors' doors within a 500-meter radius and tell them how much of a fucking degenerate you are. The day you move in, or we arrest you again. That is like one of the greatest things you could do. I don't think he is on the sexual offenders list, though, Rob. I could be wrong. That's.
I don't think he'll remain on that because the conviction was vacated.
Yeah, everybody knows he is anyway. For fuck's sake, so he's Bill Cosby. Like, you got to put Bill Cosby on the list to know. Oh yeah, I had no idea Bill Cosby was a sexual offender. He's on the list.
Theo still has his back. Theo still has his back, so it's good.
Oh, does he? Well, Theo sucks.
So does Felicia. Doesn't Felicia Rashad have his back too?
Felicia Rashad, yeah, she was like, "What a
His
day
wife?
for justice." Yeah.
She
And my buddy
sucks.
Rob's like, "Go have a drink with him, then, Felicia. Go do it."
Yeah.
No.
I do. I've done that many times, but I always pass out.
Yeah.
All right, Rob, we got to roll because we got Bonzi on the line, and we haven't talked to him for a couple weeks. And he's in Vegas, and he's been doing he cooked a lot of meat yesterday, so we got to get to him. But I appreciate you being here.
Rob,
Yeah.
good to see you, Rob. And let me know what I can do about my premiums.
Yeah, absolutely. If you need
I love the fact you stuck with that joke through the whole pod. Thank you.
You're committed to that
That's all I care
mediocre
about.
joke. Peace out, guys.
Thanks, dude. Appreciate
Rob,
it.
I may need you for legal issues down the road. I'll keep your number.
And on the exact opposite part of the spectrum.
Hi, guys. What's happening?
And
My
now
man
the pendulum
Bonzi.
swings the other way.
That's right.
From the smart to the stupid.
No. From a guy practicing law in a furnace room to a guy on the road in his own tour bus.
Sir,
Bonzi, how are you, buddy?
Cooking meat and meeting people.
I'm good, guys. It's been a hell of a time since we've last talked. I think we've hit
Before we start, something you missed at the start of the podcast. This is how we started.
Oh, there you go.
That is Lachlan logging
I'm
on.
I'm sorry I missed the start. I joined in about 10 minutes later and
that was just after Lachlan had to knock on the door of people that live within 500 meters of him.
good for you, Lach. You're looking good, pal.
He looks great.
Doesn't
Are
he?
you kidding me?
If he won, I was working outside. I had to fix my barbecue, and then I went and took a shower, and I've been wandering around the house for the last 15, 20 minutes. Well, before that, and I was sweating. It was dripping.
Look at that classic farmer's tan. Look at that classic farmer's tan.
I didn't want to put a shirt on and sweat out a shirt, so I just jumped on and hope I got a fan behind me here to cool off.
You look great.
Thank you.
You look great.
You.
Yeah. You know what it looks like? I'll tell you what. It looks like you go out to get gas like that.
I do a lot of work outside like that. Like this is probably that picture is probably why most of my neighbors don't talk to me. The one that lives right here, I don't know what her name is, but no, literally, if I come outside, she goes inside. Like it's one of those relations.
Might have something to do with these. You took a picture of your feet and put them on Twitter. What the fuck is wrong with your big toes?
What is Lord?
I had serious ingrown toenails when I they're all the same length. I got
what? You can walk on snow with those.
Dude?
Look at them.
Oh my god, dude!
Those are good hunting in the woods feet.
They look like club.
And that was after he made fun of my feet, which look a million times better than his.
We have to show a picture of your fucking feet, Dean.
Why?
Me?
Check out these tree climbers. I mean,
I don't have a picture.
If I saw a video of you eating chopsticks with your feet, eating Chinese food, I would not be surprised. His fucking toes are as long as my fingers.
Yeah, but your toes are as short as they're just little. Dude, you have Fred Flintstone feet. Like, do you drive with those feet?
I do.
My feet look normal. Like here's my feet. My feet look way more normal than this. Those two big toes. Those two. Look at my feet. Look at normal feet. Normal. See?
Look at how
See how all my toes like that. Yours, it's like someone cut yours off at the first knuckle.
Hanna-Barbera made those feet. Look at them.
Oh man, I had the worst toenails when I was in high school, and they're better now. You should have seen them.
Are they
your two big toes?
They would grow.
You've had two big toes transplanted on your feet, courtesy of a 93-year-old.
Okay, I'll tell you a story. I'll tell you a quick story about ingrown toenails. So my toenails grow into the sides of my feet, and they started when I was about 12 or 13, and they would bleed and get infected. Yeah. And I would go to the doctor, and he would take my nail and cut down the side. Okay. And then he would pull the wedge out, and he would tape me up and send me home. I did that, I swear to God, 5 times, okay? Over like a 3-4 year period of time. And it kept growing in. And he goes, finally, the doctor says to me, he goes, listen, son, we're going to get rid of your toenails for good. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to cut into the bed of I'm going to cut into your toe, okay?
Yeah.
And I'm going to go in. First, he yanks them right out. Boom. Gone. And then he goes into the bed just underneath the nail, opens it up, takes this knife, and I know this because I watched him do it because I was just under local, and he scraped the on the bone, scraped the bed of the toenail off.
Damn it.
And I couldn't walk on my feet for a month. It was the worst fucking pain ever.
Is that when you started drinking?
Okay. He says, a couple years before that.
Oh.
I ended up leaving thinking, I was told your toenails will never grow back. We got rid of them. He also cauterized the whole thing with guess what happened in 6 months?
They grew back.
The fucking cat came back and they were angrier and meaner than they ever were.
And
so
silver,
now
or amber. What color is that?
I do home surgery. I have no quick underneath my nail. Like it's dead. I can stick right underneath that nail.
I think you should sue the guy that did that, dude. I think that's medical malpractice. You have hammer toes and it's to no fault of your own.
And so now what I do is, and they're thick too. Those bad boys are like an inch thick.
Can't tell.
So I have to cut them.
Do you ever wear sandals?
No. My wife won't let me. I cut the toenails off and I pull all that shit out of there. You're catching them on a good day. I mean, I've got a little bit of length on them.
These feet look angry, my friend.
Yes.
Angry.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're okay.
Angry that day. Yeah.
Feet were. I just gave you some nice classical music for that toenail story too. Settles everybody down because the story's pretty fucking
Fonzie,
gross.
Have you got good looking feet?
Listen, compared to you, I got fucking 9 out of 10s, bud. They are not bad. I do have an issue with my one baby toe. The nail just ripped off yesterday. But other than that, I got the nice feet like Dean do. The toes go gradually. My second toe might be right there with the big toe, but then you got the nice normal decline. I don't think they're that bad, to be honest, Locke.
Dean's got he could be swinging through the jungle and one hand.
I got big toe. I got huge feet.
Yeah, and then another one grabs a vine, and then his foot grabs a vine, and then the other foot grabs a vine.
I know. I'm a monkey. I do want to address something because Bonzi's on a tour through the United States. He's currently camped out in California in his Prevost bus. He sent this to me because he left the freezer open last night.
2 nights ago.
This. Had to cook all the meat in the freezer yesterday. I got the wrong switch and it de-thawed on us last night in Vegas. He ate 40 pounds of meat last night.
Oh, you're shit.
We did.
Can you take a picture of your next shit?
We did have a pretty good feast last night. I'm not going to lie, but most of that ended up going in the freezer. I had to cook it all because you can't. It's de-thawed. You can't refreeze it. So I cooked it.
It's not de-thawed.
Yeah,
it's
not de-thawed. In the desert in the Joshua Tree.
De-thawing would mean it's frozen.
Yeah,
again,
I thought
just to let you know. Yeah,
you thawed it.
So I cooked it. Then you can refreeze it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
So is that what you did? Did you refreeze all this meat?
I did. Yeah. Most of it. Some's in the fridge for today, but 90% of it's back in the freezer, all cooked now and ready to go. So
I see. Just above the meatballs there, you had a whole platter of lactose. Look at that.
Yeah.
Look at right there.
I think there's a conversation here about what he's got on that table, right? And the amount.
I'd like to know what these things are that look like abortions. These appear to be pulled pork. You got a little ground beef, some chicken. But what are we looking at here? Because none of this looks particularly appetizing.
So it really is, though. You got chicken breast. There's 2 plates of chicken breast. And then 2 plates of ground turkey and 1 plate of ground beef with taco flavoring. And then the meatballs, obviously. And then just above the meatballs is meatless chicken fingers or chicken nuggets.
Shit. Did you buy those? Are you one of those people that buys that stuff when he feels like he had a bad couple of days eating? Like, because you should never buy meatless anything if you eat meat. Like, I only find meat eaters that are like, and I fucking hate every single one of them. The meat eaters that are like, I'm trying this new beef tonight that's not beef. And I'm like, you eat meat, you stupid douche. Just eat meat if that's what you're going to do.
Don't even get me started on vegans. I don't think their fucking brains work properly.
They're the fucking worst people in the world.
Oh, my God.
I'm not vegan by any means. You could tell by all the meat there. But those things are actually pretty good. I buy them once in a blue moon. They're super cheap. They're in a bag. It takes 5 minutes to make them. And they do actually taste pretty good for being meatless, if you will. So
no, they don't. I've had them. They taste like shit. No, they don't. They taste like shit.
I don't know why. Why do people convince themselves that fake meat tastes like something?
Because you know why? Because people feel guilty. People feel guilty. That's why. I was talking with some guys. I was at my son's baseball game last night, and I was talking with these guys because we haven't seen each other in like 2 years. Kids baseball team, dad you hadn't seen in 2 years, and we started to have a conversation about our worst eating nights during the pandemic. And I had a night, and I was thinking about 100%. Listen to this, and I remember the night because I had to make myself throw up at like 2 a.m. because my stomach was so full. I had not a row. I had a box of Oreos.
Good for you.
Box.
Was that after Saturday?
A marble cake. Yeah, a marble cake loaf. And I went to McDonald's after that.
Nice. Weed is a hell of a drug, dude, for you.
Isn't it, though?
Oh, crap.
Dude, we've all had those nights. And it was funny because I was telling the story. I'm like, oh, yeah, I ate this, and this. And all of a sudden, this like quorum of other dads, oh, are you talking about your worst eating? I had a night like that, too.
I got one. It wasn't a pandemic one. When my wife goes away, I don't eat very well. So she bought me. She'll buy me food. Sometimes she'll get me stuff that's pre-made, put it in the freezer, or she'll make a lasagna or something like that. And she was gone for like a week, but she bought me hot dogs. And she said, all you got to do is just heat these things up and we'll have some fun. And this was a couple years ago. It's a couple years ago.
But you hot dogs?
Yeah, because I don't mind a hot dog.
That's love, baby.
So she treats you like you're one of her kids. It's the best.
Here's your juice box.
I got you hot dogs so you don't hurt yourself. Thanks, honey. I appreciate it.
Here's your juice box.
So anyway, I start the water to boil the hot dogs, and I flip the TV on, and I cut the hot dogs open, like the package is sitting there. And I grabbed one and I took a bite and I'm like, these are actually pretty decent. About 30 minutes later,
it's like anuses and shit in hot dogs.
An entire bag of hot dogs raw.
Wow.
And I was sober. Well, relatively.
Not after eating that, you weren't.
Yeah. And I just remember thinking to myself, why the whole box? Like, I mean, it was 12.
I know. I asked myself the same thing. I was like, I got in the car to go to McDonald's after I ate the entire marble loaf. And I was like, you shouldn't go. What did you get at McDonald's? I got a meal, and I supersized it, and I got a McFlurry. And I was so sick the next day, and I worked like it was fucking hilarious too because I became single last September, so I started walking, lost a ton of weight, and like after the second wave of the pandemic hit, I was like, "Fuck that, I'm eating." Fuck that, and that's all I did. I would look forward to like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night. I'd smoke a bowl, and then I'd be like, what are we eating tonight, baby? And I would do that. I literally would do that. There was one night I had seven peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. 7.
Wow. Jesus Christ.
And then I had a massive bowl of sherbet like a fucking pig.
My friend, my best friend in the world, he was living with me. This was years ago. And I came home and he looks at me kind of guilty. And I look at the coffee table. He was just sitting watching TV, and we had just gone shopping the day before. and there was an empty box of Fig Newtons on the table. And I said to him, did you eat the whole box? He goes, yeah, never buy those again, please.
I one time ate 2 sleeves of soda crackers with Nutella.
What were you on that day?
Yeah, what were you smoking?
Weed. That was weed. Good weed.
Sounds like it.
Oh shit! We got drunk one time we were doing these things.
Here we go. Yeah,
we got drunk at the radio station, and we actually slept at the station. We were so drunk. We were doing these things during the pandemic called bingo tunes. So we would do bingo on Zoom, and people would sign in. We'd have hundreds of people. It was a lot of fun, and we give away prizes and stuff like that. We actually should probably do another one. Pandemic's over.
You know what you just did? You just made me want to do live action bingo here with you and everybody else across the country.
It was fun. I got a guy who does it, and he's really good at it. Anyway,
we got to do it.
So all we did, Dean, was we would just host it. So he would throw our mics on every once in a while, our cameras, and then we would do a prize, and we had these interactive bits and stuff during the bingo stuff that the locker room would host. So Jimmy, Grant, and I would do this, and I bought a bunch of bags of chips, and we bought a tub, like a fucking liter tub of that hella good dip. Have you guys ever had that?
That makes my stomach go bad. Yeah,
it's like crack cocaine. I love that hell of a dip.
We were dipping everything had at the radio station in it, even if it didn't make sense. And between the 3 of us, we drank, I don't know how much. It's embarrassing how much we drank, but we drank all our booze, and we polished off a 1 liter bucket of hella good dip. That was our evening.
Wow.
You had some people are commenting on their favorite meals over the pandemic. This is your buddy Naked Cheese Whiz. I mean, nobody wants to admit they ate 9 cans of ravioli. Sean says 2 cans of pork and beans and a box of Oreos at 1 a.m. Wild bachelor living. Bad night.
We used to have experiments with Kraft macaroni and cheese too, because we used to throw shit in it. We'd throw frozen corn, heat it up, cook it with it. We'd throw tuna in there.
It's great with tuna. Great with tuna. Peas, pork and corn, beans, you can put all kinds of stuff in there. Yeah. Well, what about you, Bonzi? Or other than that, I know you like to smoke pot, but have you had a couple of bad pandemic eating nights?
Well, I'll tell you, just recent. We're in Vegas. We're walking the strip at night. We had dinner, and then we smoked a couple of big fat joints. We got the new the Wiz Khalifa KK Khalifa Kush. So good. And man, does it ever give you the fucking munchies? So we're walking down the strip, and you know those big ass candy stores that are in Toronto, the big cities, and it's just filled with the fucking greatest candy. We spent $50 American in this candy store. We're walking down the street, and and mostly me, my son's he's doing pretty good. He lost a shit ton of weight, but I was so deep into this candy. I ate the big bag of chocolate peanut butter M&Ms. Then I was into the bag of chocolate toffee stuff I got. 2 different flavors in there. And by the 3rd bag of chocolate that I was on, I had to tell Brad to take the fucking bag away and actually throw it in the garbage on the strip because I was waddling down the street at this point. It was disgusting, dude.
We had conversations with a friend of mine yesterday, and I'm like, you're like, now that the pandemic's over and I'm going out, I'm busy. I'm out taking my kids to places. Masking limits are pretty much off, right? Everything's kind of getting back to normal. For post-pandemic, because of my eating, I would be out somewhere and go, I have to take a shit. So bad.
You got to post Wade's comment.
Oh, what did Wade say? Which one?
The top one.
What did he eat? What did Wade eat? ProStar cereal and beer. Was that a milk?
That one.
I quit smoking dope, and 3 7-Elevens in my hood went tits up.
Oh, the cereal thing reminds me. I remember I bought a big box. We don't buy sweet cereals. We never have. We avoided it when the girls were kids growing up. So it was like Cheerios and Raisin Bran and cornflakes.
You got a thing against diabetes in your house or what?
Yeah. Well, we didn't. We also tried not to put pop in the house. It was like for special occasions and things like that.
You guys Mennonite?
No, we're just trying not. Like I think sugar is the devil. Like honestly. So I remember every once in a while when I got to go shopping, I would buy something like as a treat with the girls, right? When they were still in the house and we would go shopping together, and mom would send us to the store and she'd always say, stick to the list. But we'd always be dicks and buy something like a box of donuts or something like that. And we were in the cereal aisle one day and on one of these trips, and I saw a box of honeycomb. And there wasn't a small box. It's never a small box of honeycomb. It was a fucking monster box of honeycomb. And I'm like,
honeycomb's big.
Should we buy it, girls?
Yeah.
And they're like, yes, Dad, do it. So I throw it in the fucking thing. And we get home. We hide it in the pantry so that mom doesn't see it. And then we get up the next morning and I give the girls honeycomb. So they each got a bowl and I had a bowl. And then everybody went about their day. And I finished off the box. I couldn't stop going back.
With milk or just like a snack food?
No, with milk. I had like 13 bowls of cereal in 7 hours. And
that was the only thing you ate all day. Dude, I did the same. Why I'm laughing? I did the same thing. I bought a massive box of Fruity Pebbles for my kids. They didn't have one bowl. And my kid came down the other day. He's like, "Where's the Fruity Pebbles?" I'm like, "I don't know. I guess I don't know. I guess they're gone."
Termites.
Yeah, termites. I hate the. Bonzi, I got a question for you.
Go.
What's the heat wave like down in Vegas? Because you were in Vegas. You sent me this picture. Was it as hot in Vegas? Because it was like 50 in BC, so hottest place on the planet. Did you take this picture of this cat? This guy, by the way, this guy needs some help. This guy needs a little help.
You know what he looked like?
What is that in his waistband?
I think.
I thought that, Locke, but I think it's one of those plastic bags you can zip up and have your ID and phone in and stuff.
Yeah.
Now,
like a money belt thing.
The picture I couldn't get from this is the guy actually, he's just a normal looking white dude. And what it looks like is he was in the movie The Hangover and was on like a 4-day bender and was trying to find his way back to the hotel, which I don't think he could find. And I just turned around, I looked at him, we made eye contact, and I said, hell of a weekend, eh, bud? And he just looked at me, gave me the nod, and we just kept going.
Oh, that guy's been in Vegas like for a trip, and that's what he's got left. Like,
what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, because
including his ass. Apparently, he left his ass there too. He's now a card-carrying member of the No Ass Club.
Got a minor problem with the garters he's got attached to his pants here too. It's a little weird, but that picture I loved. But this picture, I was like, Bonzi, this is like you took a picture next to a car that, like, there's only 1 billion of them up here in Canada. Do you just like that car or something?
We rented.
This is the equivalent of me standing. This is the equivalent of me standing next to a Kia in like Oshawa, going, "Hey, I'm having a great time."
Listen, here's the deal. I rented that car for a day. Me and my son took off to Lake Mead, Hoover Dam. We went up into Red Rock Canyon and did the tour out there. And that is a 2020, I think, 50th anniversary edition of the Camaro SS, the Hot Wheels edition. And that is one sick fucking car, dude. So it costs like I wanted to rent a Lamborghini or something like that.
No,
way too expensive.
Bonzi, you're a Camaro guy.
Yeah, and listen,
I need to see you.
It's a hot rod, but it wasn't one of a fancy. I didn't want the responsibility of driving something any more than that Camaro right there. But it was a fantastic car. We spent 8 hours in it, toured all around the outskirts of Vegas, and
that's great.
And it was pretty cool. So that's the reason for that pick.
Good for you.
It's awesome.
I got a great story for you about Vegas. So
obviously,
because Vegas is the land of
Well, you went. Hang on. Just to recap. Bonzi's doing the midlife crisis tour. Sold everything he owns. Bought a tour bus. Traveling now with his son throughout the United States. That is Hoover Dam in Vegas. That is Bonzi in Vegas. Keep in mind, he's doing this trip with his kid. What did he have to say about these two hookers that you were chatting with?
No, it's pretty funny because he wouldn't get his picture with them. He's like, they're not hot enough for me. Because he's got a girlfriend back home who he's trying to stay on the straight and narrow. So
didn't want her to see him like a picture of him with his dad and two hookers.
Well,
yeah, pretty much
that, and he might be onto something that I think other people are onto at this point. That Wonder Woman might have a penis.
She's a big girl, eh? The other one.
Like there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Wonder Woman might have a penis.
Dude,
a lot of women do have penises. I don't know if you're like
that Wonder Woman when she walks up to you and says hi. She goes like this. What's up? What's up? What's up?
Maybe her penis is like her jet, invisible. It's always
Bonzi, your story. Sorry, your Vegas story.
So speaking of
you approaching hookers with your kid. Go ahead.
So those weren't really hookers per se. They were lovely ladies on the street trying to make a buck with
these girls aren't willing to have sex for money at all. Go ahead, Bonzi.
So we get back to the hotel room. I'm pretty high, I'm pretty lit. And I'm feeling kind of frisky. I got a hotel room, but obviously my son's with me. I shouldn't even be telling the stories right here, but
yeah, you should.
I agree.
Anyways, I thought maybe
Hang on. Before you tell the story, I'm going to make you go full view. There we go.
There you go.
Perfect.
And we're going to add some classical music to this bad boy. Go ahead. Tell us about what it was like to secure a prostitute on a trip with your kid. Go ahead, Bonzi.
Well, that's the problem is I didn't get to secure one, and here's why. I'm splitting. We're at the Rio. Great hotel, by the way, kind of.
Yeah.
And then, so it's pretty late. It's like 11:30, 12. We're back at the hotel. And,
there's an endorsement.
There's a ton of beautiful ladies out on the strip. And I was kind of feeling it. It's been a long, lonely 3.5 months on the road, Dean.
No one's touched the little Bonzarelli in a while, kid.
No, just me. And anyways, there's these dudes that stand out on the strip and they flap those cards of naked ladies. It's like a playing card, right? So at this point, I've got a stack of them. So I'm laying in bed. And I start going through them. I'm like, fuck, I'll text them and see who's available.
Got him, need him, got him, need him.
So I start texting them, and some are busy. They're all sorry, booked or whatever. And then one girl answers
some are
back.
busy.
She goes, I'm available. And I go, oh, perfect. I said, can you meet me out back in the tour bus? Because I can't bring her to the room. My son's
can
there.
we review? If you're getting called to the trailer park to meet a John that owns a bus.
So here's how the rest of this goes. She texts me back. And I sent her a picture of the bus. It was real nice looking with the mountains and the sunset in the background. And I said, meet me here. I got his 45-foot Prevost tour bus. She just puts back in capital letters, I don't do buses.
Yeah, good for her.
She heard you, Locke. She heard you.
She heard you. Yeah. So
that's a smart hooker.
I got the same response. I got the same response from another one, and then my ego was destroyed, and I had to put the cards down.
Why didn't you just put your son in the bus and then you bring him to the hotel room?
It's pretty.
Son, I need you to go to the bus so I can get a hooker.
Can you go to the bus in the back parking lot right now where there's no security at midnight?
You're right. Sorry, Bonzi, my bad. The direction that you were going in of securing a hooker to put on the bus while your son slept in the hotel room, you can't ruin that kind you class with, hey, maybe you should leave the room and go to the tour bus. I mean, that's
good parenting right there.
That is great parenting. I got to tell you, I think you made a series of good decisions there.
Yeah,
and you had some made for you. Yeah, which is traditionally how those most of those things work out for people like you. Is someone else has to make the decision. Don't worry, I put me in your camp too.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that realizes the issue with somebody meeting somebody at a bus for a booty call. Like
listen,
It's
not
the
like
first
that's
rule
a
of
hooker
hooker
or
club
anything.
is that you don't fuck clients in buses. It's like the first rule, I think, right?
We'll have to ask Brent on tour. He would know best.
Or old VW vans. They fit in that.
Oh my
pile,
God,
too.
that is so funny. I can't believe
So-
you tried to get a hooker with your son in the bed next to you.
He didn't. He tried to get a hooker to go to his tour bus. So
I know, but
sleeping
he
in that
was
bed.
reviewing the cards while his son was sleeping beside him.
Well, I don't even
He's
think
going.
he was sleeping.
Can
He's
you see
probably
him doing
just
that?
wondering.
Can I see him going like, no, no. Ooh, ace of clubs. All right, we'll put her over in the
Was your
back.
dad Larry from Three's Company?
No.
Because it's starting to sound
No.
like it.
Oh my
Ooh, the king of
God,
hearts
you know
looks
what?
not bad.
My dad is like the cleanest, doesn't drink. He's like the nicest little Englishman you'd ever meet, and he must
Do
be
not
so ashamed.
get
He
him
must
to
be so
watch this
ashamed of me.
podcast.
I know. I have to tell. I don't even tell them I'm doing it because they've already heard and seen enough on my own live show and podcast that
Yeah.
my mother's just disgusted with me at this point.
You know, I'm really looking forward to seeing I would pay money actually for your ex-wife who allowed your son to go on this trip with you, just to see her watch this segment.
Well, she was the threesome gal, wasn't she? She's down.
Oh yeah,
She's got her own skeletons.
She married
hasn't she?
she married a 12th level wizard from World of Warcraft, so she probably doesn't.
She may
have
even
power
have
with
her own card by now, guys. You never know.
it. Yeah, that's true. She might be
Oh,
one of the,
that's
she might be
good.
the three of diamonds in Vegas. You don't know.
Maybe she's
Anyway.
Wonder Woman.
He's 19. He's an adult. He can make his own
Yeah, yeah.
decisions. And listen,
He's
we
not
got
an
great-
adult.
There's just certain things I probably wouldn't test around my children, and that would be one of them. But you know what? I got to tell you, I
One
respect
might be my
it.
dick in a hooker.
Hey, I was gonna go to the bus, and I think that's pretty decent of me.
Again,
He would have never known the
that is
difference.
not a step up, Bunsey.
This is the
He would've-
benchmark.
He would have never
Listen,
known the difference had I
I
gone
was
and
gonna
done it
fuck
and
her
not
on
said
the
anything.
bus.
I love you so
Shit. Thank you.
All right,
Oh,
buddy,
man,
great
what
to
else?
see you.
Can't
Yeah,
believe
Nolan,
the
are
Burger
you-
King
are you
bathroom
in-
available. Like I'm just.
Are you
Tucker
in?
Sorry, Tucker got stung by a scorpion last night on his foot while I was cooking all that meat up, and he fucking
Alright.
was in pain for a couple hours. He did not like the that sting.
Your dog?
Yeah, that kind
Oh,
of
I
Is
stuff.
he gonna be all right? Is he
Yeah,
gonna
he's
be all
fine now. He's back to normal. So
right? All right.
Oh, that's
All
good.
good,
We
dude. Are you in Cali now? You're out of Vegas. You're in Cali. All right.
we're
in California.
We spent last night in the Joshua Tree out in the desert.
That's
and
cool.
like literally out in the desert. It was really cool. Surrounded by mountains and real close. And yeah, just it was real quiet last night. Not too many people around. And it was a great experience. Me and my son had some great talks, sat outside. The stars were just incredible when you're out in the middle of the Joshua Tree.
Can I ask you a serious question? Was one of those talks, Dad, why did you try to secure a prostitute while we're on a father-son trip?
I was awake
because
the
he
whole
didn't
time.
know
I
until
can
right now.
hear you. I can hear you going through the cards and the
Well,
snap of
son.
the corners as you place them in the no pile.
He's sitting here laughing. Listen, we have a great relationship. Listen,
I know, buddy.
He-
We're just busting your balls.
He
We do it to each
understands
other.
that sometimes
I know.
Dad's going to want to call a hooker to the bus.
Oh yeah, I mean, cripes. It is what it is. You know,
Why don't you
I
just
have,
share a hooker
if
together?
the
Why
Bunny
don't you
Ranch
just
was
fucking do it?
closer, we would have stopped at the Bunny Ranch, and he'd have sat on the bus whilst Dad was inside the Bunny Ranch having a grand old time.
I don't know if that's good or bad.
You know what? I'm not judging him. We can't
I think
judge
it's
this,
hilarious.
man.
I'm
No,
not
you
judging. I think
can't.
it's funny.
No, I know.
Like,
Anyway,
like-
dude, listen, I love you. I'm glad you're in Cali. And
We
I'm
are-
really glad you're okay. And I'm super glad neither of these two ladies gave you any parting favors on the way out of town.
Me,
You know
me
what I'm
too.
saying?
Me too.
Yeah.
So we
All
are
right.
currently in Palm Springs, California, which, man, I've always wanted to come here. It is fucking gorgeous here. Surrounded
Yep.
by mountains. We're at some fancy RV resort. We are going to play.
Are there fancy hold it? Are there
There is.
fancy RV resorts?
There is.
Like what is a fancy RV resort as opposed to an RV resort?
I'll
like,
tell you exactly.
yeah.
Last night, we were stayed at a place that is like literally the desert floor, not a sniff of grass, hardly any trees, no pool, no laundry facilities, hardly any amenities. Okay.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
it's a place to stay. We got to plug in. So I've got a full place to, it's all good. today's spot is this massive pull-in site surrounded by trees, grass. They have a beautiful pool here. They have a gym facility. They have a spa. They have a golf course on site, tennis courts, bocce ball court. So there's a big difference in RV. This would be considered the top end of an RV resort for sure. So we're locked up here for the July 4th weekend because it's pretty tough to get a spot. So we got this locked down, and then my son leaves on the 6th, and we'll make our way to Los Angeles on the 5th.
Well, dude, great to see you, and really happy you're healthy and fucking funny as balls today. Keep bringing that kind of big dick energy to this podcast. That'd be great.
You bet. Okay. You bet. I will. Thanks, guys.
Locke?
Great to see you again.
Bonzi, Locke, I lost you. Oh, he's there. Pop back in. Pop out and pop back in. And then we'll wrap it up. Pop out, pop back in. There he is. Drag to move. There's James. James just moved up in the pecking order. Woo. Look at that. There
James, how was your week with Mike Bullard? Is that all done?
Yes, it felt like it was a 2-month stint, but it's all done. Yeah.
Cool. Good.
Don't hear you. Don't hear you, Locke. Still don't hear you.
Goodbye, Lachlan.
We're gonna wrap up. Buddy. We're gonna wrap up anyway. Yeah, we're gonna.
See you later.
That's Lachlan Cross. That is Bonzi. That is James D. Fiore. Guys, thanks for doing this on Canada Day. Stay safe. Celebrate if you want. Don't celebrate if you don't want. Doesn't matter to me. All that matters is that you're a good human being who does the right thing. So we love this country. We might not love part of its history, and we might be embarrassed by it, but it's up to us to change that. So please do that today, or at least think about it. Happy Canada Day to you, or not. If you don't celebrate it and you hate it, good for you too. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for joining. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being part of the podcast. I want to say hello to our friends at Blue Microphones, at Blue Microphones on Twitter, or bluemic.com. Go and check out what they have for podcasting, streaming, gaming, all that stuff. XLR mic, super easy. Plug them into your computer. You're gone. You're go. You're going to podcast. You're going to prepare. You're going to be, you got it all. You look good. You feel good. You got these headphones, MoFi headphones from Blue. Look at that. It says Blue on the side. Look at Blue. So get your stuff from Blue. We do. Our entire network does. All 70 of our podcasts and content providers, because they're pro. Blue Microphones. BlueMic.com. Ed's Fine Imports. EdsFineImports.com. His Gitch is the beast. Go and get it from him. You can order 4 for the price of 3 when you use promo code GITCH3. EdsFineImports.com. Boxer briefs. They're the best. Swear to God. It's like 4,000 degrees the other day. Wore them. They wicked all the sweat away from that area. Plus, they got this little pouch to put your stuff in. It's a boxer briefs, and they keep everything separate so air can flow. The best luxury undergarment on the planet. Boxer briefs for dudes. It's called Gitch. Order them from edsfineimports.com today. Easy Auto Financial. Our friends at Easy Auto Financial want to make it really easy for you to get a vehicle. If you have an issue with your credit rating, they'll take care of that. Love subprime people. They love it. Got a bad credit rating? They don't care. They'll find you a car. They'll find you the financing. Totally free of charge. It's one-stop shopping for a vehicle. EasyAutoFinancial.ca. They take care of you. They take care of me. They'll take care of everybody. Everybody. Rock your body. Everybody. Back streets back. All right. And Domination. Our friends at Domination, AI for people that do content. You can use them for free. Try them today. DMNTN.com. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll be back. Much to everybody's chagrin. We'll be back. Bye, everybody.